All right, let's call this meeting for meeting of the Landfill Advisory Committee for this quarter. Like we have a forum here, we're missing John Wyatt Party. First thing on the agenda is election. Floor is open for nominations.
Stay your score up. While you're not get reelected. Tractor in front of the road or somebody should, you know.
Everybody speak at once.
Still this way.
Doing it in order, top down or?
Yes, the chairman, excuse me.
Nominate somebody in abstention.
Wishes. I have a nomination. I would like to nominate Brenda Sharp. All right, any more nominations? Stop, Mr. Chairman. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Congratulations, Bert.
Sure.
I will be glad to turn the meeting over to you.
Let's see here. So I guess we have 3 officers to nominate. I was secretary up until about 30 seconds ago. So I will open the board of nominations for vice chair.
Well, I'm gonna take them out again, and I'm gonna nominate Paul Bucket.
Second. Become second, so.
I'm trying to get some new blood. That's what I'm.
Any other nominations? So you said all? Yeah. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Likewise, sign. Hearing none. Congratulations, Paul. The floor is open to nominations for secretary. Second. Just talking. Here we go, the nominations down here at the secretary. All in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
All opposed, like sign. Hearing none. Congratulations, Dawn. So that concludes the elections of officers, this quarterly meeting. Speaking of quarterly meetings, can we confirm the date of the next quarterly meetings that we need
October 21st.
21st?
Yeah.
It's on the calendar. October. All right, does everybody have a check?
What was that date?
21st.
21st of October.
Right.
21st. Oh, there it is. Look at that at the bottom of the agenda. It was out of order. First time.
It's okay.
Does everybody have a chance to take a look at the minutes from the previous meeting? And I apologize for not being able to make the last meeting. Take a look at the minutes. Any comments, questions, additions, modifications?
I think I replied to an email because after the last meeting, I didn't see in these minutes where Wallach mentioned there was trash in the wetlands. And so I went back and I tried to watch the meeting, but I don't know that the video was the whole meeting. So I had written previously when these initially came out, and then I re-replied here earlier this week. And I don't think anybody's addressed that. And it just feels like something that needs to be acknowledged either in the minutes or even better, the action of cleaning the wetlands if there is debris there, or confirm or deny or something.
Do we know if it was mentioned when the meeting was closed out? Because if so, I cut the meeting off as soon as.
Well, I was gonna say,
We
if it
closed
wasn't on
the-
WebEx, then it wasn't discussed during the meeting.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know. I was questioning, I think we kind of just wandered off and like got onto solar for a little bit and might have thought the meeting was over, but I don't know that we said it was over. You know, like I think we kind of thought it was and then we came back. I don't know. We could be watching together, but in my notes, I have, you know, while it said that and I didn't see it in the minutes.
There's Wallet. Waste management addresses litter wherever it is
Mhm.
at all times.
Mhm.
So it's been addressed.
Okay, I just didn't know that it wasn't in the minutes, so it wasn't reflected that it had been mentioned. Do you remember what about trash in the wetlands, the last meeting?
Yeah.
The library?
There was some just up in the trees that blew, but I know I went, last time I went down there to get, hey, they had a crew out picking up trash. It was a big crew out there picking up.
Good. You said that in our last meeting.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it just wasn't in the minutes.
Well, I think I know I said around the woods, like right where they, and there was just some scattered in that, but I don't see any. Last, well, I haven't been down since right after the March meeting. But they've had a crew down there. Well, when we cut hay,
Right.
they had another crew out then picking up again.
Oh,
So that was after all that wind.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm familiar with the trash flow situation.
And then I rolled up whatever was in the field. I don't think the cows, but
They'll be around it. Yeah.
we'll compost it.
But I just was trying to confirm that that was actually said.
All right, any other comments on the meeting minutes from April 15th? Well, we hosted elections just a few minutes ago, so know what happened.
You are really.
First three.
I tried to get you reelected.
I was gonna recommend somebody else. Got some new blood in there. Yeah, but his old blood getting dried up here. Appreciate it.
All right, do you hear a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the April 15th meeting? So moved. So moved, Don. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Right.
Opposed, like sign, hearing none, minutes are approved. Do we have any public comments for this morning? So,
Took with approving minutes that aren't accurate, but anyway, that's small potatoes. I'm deeply disappointed in the way it's been handled with the numbers along Buckingham Creek Road. I don't feel that the county, leadership is as they should, in terms of protecting the citizens. I don't feel that Waste Management acknowledged that it's probably a problem that they should have been doing something about before it got to the extent that it is. I know I have a lot to learn about, but I try to pay attention, and so it just doesn't seem, if this is how they react to this type of situation, like what would other situations look like if there were a need for them to be responsible, accountable? So that's one of my, just concerned in general. Christina Tully asked for air quality and water quality reports, and nobody even acknowledges, like, hey, we don't have those, or hey, here's a resource to look those up, and it just, as a citizen, as a neighbor, it doesn't feel like any efforts towards transparency, and that's disappointing. And to answer a question with, I don't know, it's okay as well, just to at least acknowledge.
are the air and water quality reports on past that county or landfill road?
And the DEQ, so right, all that is public information available through the DEQ.
We don't just know that. You can share that information. That
I think
too
that's
is
what
an
Allison
answer.
was referring to, was this was part of the budget issue, and these neighbors wanted to air, everything tested around their houses. Not at,
Well, that wasn't the way I understood it. I thought they just wanted to know what your results were at Maplewood that they were living at. Maybe I misunderstood.
maybe I did too. Yeah.
I think what they asked for was reasonable, to my knowledge, you know. And I just feel that, I would like to see more out of these meetings. Like I attended an EDA meeting this week and was like, wow, this, it answers a lot, you know, like I don't see, like updates. I mean, I open our update, don't know what we'll get, but there would be more of an explanation of how the leachate process works. Tell us about the grades, like just true information on the day-to-day type of things that go on, because this is an entity that's supposed to be involved in that. And I take it seriously. So, hope that everybody else here does as well. And just the lack of transparency with reporting what the contents are in by category that I always ask questions about. And then, you know, just to take those away from your reporting to the county just doesn't seem to add to any faith that one would want in having such an agent.
Any other public comment?
Bring on, I'll tell you one thing, I'm not going to say much, it's going, you know, as far as black buzzards, they're a pain in the butt. We've had them since the early eighties. They kill baby calves,
Oh, I know.
they kill cows, a lot of producers did. And we were told back then that you can't do nothing. Can't kill them, you can't do anything, you just have, all you can do is try to scare them. Well, that doesn't do a whole lot of good. Now, I don't know whether things have changed.
Oh, yeah.
I know they had trouble with the Hopewell, with them pulling windshield wiper blades off. Yeah, and, but because they're federally protected, they can't do that. And I don't know what we can do. I mean, obviously they're a problem. I don't care whether they are affecting somebody's home or somebody's livelihood or health. And, you know, we've always just got to think that, well, you just can't do nothing.
My understanding is that the landfill has a permit and they could initiate things, and I'd like to learn more. But I just want to make sure people are being held accountable, responsible, and doing their job. I understand the birds are the birds, you know, that's the deal. We have the eagles come our way, the vultures go the other way, you know, so there's a lot of things going on in the ecosystem. So just, I just want to make sure that waste management takes.
Mhm.
Thank you. All right, if there's no other public comment, go ahead and close that session and head on to our update on the bulk control program.
For those that haven't chat beforehand, wildlife biologist with the Department of Agriculture Wildlife Services Program. In the spring, Waste Management reached out to us to help with the vulture issue that we're all discussing right now. The way that Wildlife Services works is primarily in Virginia, we're mainly not government funded, we're cooperative service. So essentially, I can't come onto anybody's property unless I'm invited and asked, and most of the time having to pay a fee for us to help out. So we entered into that agreement regarding the vultures on Buckskin Creek Road. And it's been overall a success. I know that the neighbors that I've spoken to do not have problems right now. We kind of entered into with vultures, there's no silver bullet, if you will, that one thing's going to work and solve the problem. And so what we did was we started working on the landfill side of things, trying to start harassment, and there was some removals of birds to drop the numbers. And then our next side was to go over on the Buckskin Creek Road and address those individual homeowners with whether that be effigies, pyrotechnics, harassment. We kind of, with vultures, you got to throw everything in them. So the way we sit right now, everyone seems to be happy, and There's not having vulture issues. With vultures, it's not permanent. They will come back. I don't know if it's in a month, is it 2 years? I would assume with the landfill being next door, it'll be quicker than that. So what we've talked about going forward is having some sort of agreement, and we haven't worked out exact details, but having some sort of process set up where we don't have to go through the approval anymore. We are set up, ready to roll. Again, if somebody has, I mean, you could, in a perfect world, we can have it set up. If you started having vulture issues or whoever, you just call my cell phone, I run it through Brian, get approval to do the work, and we move on. So that's kind of where we're at now. Any questions? But to answer the one question, there are things that we can do for cattle and things like this. It's a different conversation, sure, just to address that. Have the exact numbers. So I had a couple different employees working on it, so I haven't gotten all their data, but the last numbers that I had, it was 95% harassed and 5% removed. Very few, no more than 50.
Dead birds, you're
Dead
saying?
birds. Yes, ma'am. Obviously harassing well over 1,000. Now that might have been the same birds throughout the area, but
Sure, a lot of those were young birds too, but
it varies. To be honest with you, I mean, you have your local birds that never leave Amelia County, but in general, there's been studies, and don't quote me on this, but when you're looking at 50 vultures on a Monday and on Tuesday you see 50, a lot of times it's different birds that they're moving, they traveling miles and states away, continue coming back to certain areas. It's when in the wintertime, when they have a dedicated roost, when they congregate, that's when it's really difficult to break them up and move them because their numbers are so high, kind of a safety and numbers deal.
Are there like preventative things? Is it like weather cover? Is it like, what else does the landfill do at day?
Well, harassment needs to be a regular.
So that impacts the neighbors too, probably, like.
Well, and to be honest with you, it could push the birds to neighbors too, but it's, you got to start getting.
Something, yeah.
Get ahead of it. I think with this particular neighbors that are having problems, we need to be prepared to have effigies, which are dead vultures hanging upside down, regularly there. Obviously, it's not the best thing to look at every morning, but
it does work.
it does work.
Yeah.
And it's not perfect, but it will help.
Something.
It's something. And then, the beautiful thing about where those neighbors are, they can harass too, because they're kind of rural and safety's not, so I encourage them as well to harass as much as possible. And so it's gonna be a, continual issue that I think everyone can work together on. And we're just here to kind of help where we need to fill in the gaps.
How is information about the program been spread throughout the residents and throughout the neighborhood there to make sure everybody knows? Is that something that they not notice about or?
The immediate neighbors right there too. After meeting with Brian, I went and met with the trolleys and then went door to door essentially. And it kind of just spread, hey, go talk to this neighbor, go talk to this neighbor. And then, so if it's not in that immediate area, I don't know. I can only, like I said, I can only go where I'm invited to come. So it's that immediate section that we're going to focus our effort.
Concerns, I appreciate all y'all do, but like for the homeowners to have to absorb the cost of the damages done, I don't necessarily feel like they should have to face those. Like, I think for them to tell their homeowners policy. Well, anytime like you have a wreck, your stuff goes up, like I don't think, number one, it should have to come out of their pocket at all. I just don't feel like, or there should be at least help, or something. Do you see damages done and how that's handled in other communities, like around buzzards?
To answer your question, I don't know. At that point,
It's out of your hands.
I'm not involved in
You're
this.
saying you never did anything
I
like
have not.
other people do. Seems unfair, an additional unfair burden to bear.
To address what you're saying,
Yes, sir.
as a cattle farmer, we've all lost
Of course.
calves, everything to vultures. We just have to suck it up.
Sure, but you didn't have to go buy a new HVAC system because of it, you know, like.
No, but I haven't, you know,
I think
I mean, even if I had to take cash, you bought some money.
No,
that's probably more than HVAC.
Sure.
Yes. I do. How do you lose some HVAC system? I have no idea.
when you have them pick it apart and it's of an age that the parts can't be found or it can't be repaired. Because I mean, I know there's things that happen, or maybe your expertise could share with them on how they could, but it's still, because I know you've been helpful to them. Aired calls and things, so I don't know, I just don't feel. I mean, you took on the risk of having cattle, and so then you have to deal with the predators, but they're just living at home and then were attacked. It just feels different to me.
I was saying both because I had cattle in the converter stolen off my truck in Milwaukee last year. My insurance paid for that, but that covered it. But in your homeowner, it's not gonna cover it, I don't think.
But that was what was suggested by the county, you know,
Well, but that's because they're not insurance.
I understand, but if you, I mean,
If somebody, I don't know whether it would have been covered if somebody would have stolen for, you know, for the copper or anything like that, but, you know, that's theft.
yeah.
That's different.
Sure, but that's why I don't really care what homeowners insurance does. What I care about is what the county and waste management.
Well,
So our issue's vultures, and you the vulture. I've always heard the vultures show up where it's very, very, very quiet.
Not accurate.
Not
You
accurate.
don't
Okay,
find
so
vultures if there's no people. You find them.
Because, I mean, we will do vulture harassment and roost dispersals in the middle of the city for town.
They like people.
And then if I can find harassment.
Thank you. I wanted to ask, but I didn't want to.
So any sort of loud noise, making them uncomfortable that you're not harming them. You could shoot a firearm into the ground, in the air, whatever's safest, pyrotechnics. I've heard of people using fireworks. Legality, I'm not getting into that. Air horn. I mean, essentially, anything, and I would recommend if you are going to do that, to mix it up. Don't do the same thing over and over again, because I promise you, as frustrating as they can be, they will get habituated to whatever you do. To circle back, if that's not working, there, it's not on Buckskin Creek Road. There are options now to follow up that where lethal removal by private citizens is available, specifically livestock producers, but even if you're protecting property, there's permanent processes. Through the Fish and Wildlife Service, I promise you, it's delayed, but it is.
We have to pay $100 for that, for the permit.
Heard laws, those laws.
But they're not native to you.
Right,
It's not kicking law, but it's not native to Virginia.
We can't change the.
like I said, no, I mean, USDA has nothing to do with that, to be honest with you. That's Fish and Wildlife Service.
Okay, but an example, blue cat in the James River, they're an invasive species. They tell you if you catch it, you kill it, don't put it out. Right. So why can't we do that with black cat?
Because the Fish and Wildlife Service defined it as a migratory bird. The minute that definition was made, it's no longer, and it's invasive is impossible because it's migratory. Does that make sense? Based on their definition. Now, I completely understand where you're coming from, but that's the definition that y'all have.
Because I mean, the black cat was the problem. They're everywhere.
Yeah, turkey buzzards are not a problem.
They're not aggressive.
They're not a predator. The black buzzards, the black buzzards, we call them,
That's right. They're hopping.
that are the aggressors.
They have no sense of smell. I mean, like, it's just.
It's just here, it's no different when they did it Dutch Gap. There was not a dog there to attract them to Dutch Gap. They just come to an area. I've got a street at the farm that they love to reach in.
Right.
Love to cut it down, but it's not on my property.
Right. The livestock producers.
Or I went by a house,
Where they are in the Ringo Club, isn't that where the buzzard issue is?
it's down in that area.
Right, and so I just think there's a confluence of things there, the river, whether it's warm water, whether it's people, I mean.
No, they're coming there because people were leaving fish carts.
Basically, like, so.
Are you talking about Dutch Gap?
There was a.
Okay, that issue, I just want to clarify, almost 100% of feral cat issue. Where that problem is.
Something to east.
Right. I used to work that site and for various reasons we're out there right now, but there's generally something there that's bringing them. In your situation, what you're describing about that tree, they're roof stable. They're gonna keep coming back.
Yeah, well, they come in because of the cows.
Right.
Calves, all that.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to livestock, there's a program through us where permit fees and all that is out the window. In the future.
Yeah, it's coming out.
Well, right now you could have us or whoever come do it for you. Or get effigies hung and things of that. nature. So I just wanted to clarify that when it comes to livestock production and protecting property, it's two very different things. And that's obviously not what we're talking about now, but I just wanted to think.
So this is it's like 8 or 9 months that the citizen applies for permits.
I don't even know what they're delayed now, but I know that the state of Virginia is having issues with producers having this problem where they're kind of expediting things to bypass some of that. I don't know exactly how that's going to look. It's kind of new, but if you were a homeowner trying to get a permit right now, I think they'd tell you 8 to 9 months. And I agree with you. That's absolutely ridiculous. But that's just the way they're functioning.
Are you allowed to shoot them with paint guns?
Asking for a friend, period.
Around, you're not supposed to actually make contact.
Okay, man. He chooses to walk in front of it. I got a friend, thought that he was for the harassment part. He bought his biggest farm in the state of Virginia. He bought a lot of the James River. Geese. He can't hardly plant wheat anywhere along the river. He had one of his employees all day. He drives this field, get out, fire 3 or 4 shots of blank trail gate. Go to this field, go to this field, and start back just all day long to keep the geese out till the wheat got where everything was bought. But they were there, but that's all he could do. And
Yeah,
I don't know whether
there's options.
yeah, now it might be now. This was a few years ago.
Right.
He said, yeah, I just don't plant down there.
Right. I think there's a fine line between, I don't like the term not being able to do anything because generally, I mean, what he's doing is not convenient, but it might be working. And there are options, it's just not as well known. And that's the problem.
It depends on geese, whether it's the migratory geese. or
Right.
the
The resident.
resident.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
another problem.
Right, right.
But
So
I think these, I'm not sure which geese it were, but he didn't kill them,
generally they're
but
resident.
he just scared them all day. That's from field to field. Yeah, but that's all he could do at that time. But now he just said he doesn't worry about planting much, that part of drain, that type of drain down there.
Has this issue been kind of a recurrent thing over the past years?
With the
Over the
boat,
buzzards? Yeah.
Not at the landfill, not at the landfill, neighbors, but livestock for this.
It's the beginning, yeah.
This, among the neighbors now.
It's new.
That's a new thing.
Yes.
They've roosted there for years in the neighborhood.
But
But
not
they-
this constant.
Yeah, we've had roots.
More than we've ever had.
Up there, and especially, they know when baby calves start being born, they're gonna stick around.
But I mean, you're probably base camp there, and maybe with landfill, if we have 1,000 hanging out, they know, like they can buzz out and buzz back, so I just, not to mention the constant resource we're supplying them with.
I was by a house in June, going over to cut wheat, it was over on 617. Up next to 616, there was a house. And the buzzards were lined up across the deep. all around the porch deck railing, anywhere they could, and there was nothing up there. But they were just out there, and I don't know whether they were just drying off from a damp night, sunning. But yeah, I feel sorry for the man, for the people who own the house.
They probably don't know the resources, you know, I think that's part of the deal, is just to let people know what is out there if you are having a problem, because a lot of people don't know where to go to ask, you know, with a nuisance like that.
Maybe I'll cover this in the last meeting, so I'll talk about it, if I'm asking for the full stuff again. But so y'all have a permit, that you can go out on, but is that good for waste management property only?
Yeah,
Or adjacent properties as well?
right. So, yeah, so we have a federal depredation permit through the USDA to take seagulls and buzzards, but we're limited, you know, we do 15 a year, in a permit here, so we'll look to increase that. But just what's in our permit, but we do have a federal depredation permit for just, I can't go to somebody's house and our corporate security would never approve me going to a neighbor's house with the shotgun. So we can only take the ones that are on our property.
Yeah, no, I wasn't thinking of y'all going to somebody else in terms of permit that you operate under. So
We have a permit, so I can operate.
that goes outside of their boundaries.
As long as I have a written, it's called 12A documentation, a written permission slip to be on someone's property, and it's written what they agree to let me do. As long as those are covered, I can operate under that. I don't operate under their permit, so I can.
Have we utilized the permit that we have? I mean, when did we last go birds? I mean, we keep up on that, we burn them all up at the beginning of the year, or how does that work?
Well, I mean, 15, you can go through
Oh, I
that.
know. Like, we put up January 2.
Yeah,
that's-
I mean, they're a yearly permit. We have to renew it every year.
So we've used it up this year. How long did that take?
Well, it's not a calendar year, so it's like, I mean, it took 8 months, you know, it's not, we're not going out there on the first day of permit and shooting 15.
I know, I just didn't know.
Because you want to keep the harassment on it.
Sure, right, I get it. Just curious how long it takes.
But for the USDA, since the other things, pretty quick, and once y'all got all the permits straight, y'all came in and kind of got the problem taken care of. You know,
I was very happy how this project went. Yes, because sometimes vultures are not simple or cooperative.
I had about the house work around cows and livestock.
Right.
I've had it. You walk in there the first day, they look at you and they fly off. The second day, they look at you like, okay, I might leave. And the third day, they go, why are you here?
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of what you have to do.
And that brain can't be so big. It only knows one thing, and that's eat.
Substitution question remains in my mind.
I don't know, that is something that, yeah, I certainly understand the sentiment of having private property and it appears as though it may be related to something outside of private property boundaries, but in terms of the liability, that's not, that's a question this committee without counsel should advise on.
Right, well, I'd be happy
Truly
to.
established
Right,
precedent.
right. I would be curious just to learn more or to get it to the board. I mean, I took it to them, but I know in the bylaws, it says y'all take things to the board. So I don't know how else to try to get it more seriously addressed. Or yeah, to find out, are there precedents either way, you know?
And that's something that the board would care to pass up the chain in terms of a motion that would be entertained.
We need more discussion before we get to the motion.
In 3 months. I mean, like, I just wondered when we're gonna have more discussion.
I can't give you a date.
No, on James River, you know, had problems down there with birds coming, people swing the wipers and the rubbers on the car, all that kind of stuff. The people, I mean, that was on a state maintained property. The state didn't take the damn cars, everybody else's car insurance did, because I was working at a body shop at the time. We fixed a lot of weather damage.
Sure.
I mean, I can't, but it sounds like it's kind of out of their hands at the state's hand.
Right.
It's out of the state's hands, probably out of the county's hands at that point, if something comes on your property and causes damage.
I still
I don't know.
feel those people who park there assume that liability, like, hey, don't leave valuables in your car and maybe it's your windshield wipers, you know, but so these folks are living alongside in their own property. property and it's the neighboring property, like that just, it still feels different. I understand
Yeah.
what you're saying, but these people don't do anything out of their normal everyday life and try to live and try to harass birds early in the morning so they don't roost, I mean, it's just, it doesn't quite seem.
So maybe we go and get a legal opinion from Mr. Tor. Since we're talking about liability. You know?
Yeah, I would like to the legal opinion on that to see what, where it stands as far as the county.
Right.
You know,
Then we got it. So that's a motion on the table that we ask Mr. Gore for advice on what the liability is. Those are deprivation of private property.
I just don't see how anybody can be responsible for mandatory service. Damn.
Well, they're not controlling them. I mean, and they're luring them in, I mean, like that seems to
Certainly
make
on
some
board,
accountability to me.
And there is, fair to say, there is a documented plan that Waste Management does have a plan to do what they can within the boundaries there.
If you know that you can meet what's needed, then you ask for help, I mean, they could have reached out to them, it seems to me, earlier before they got up to 1,000 birds, or is that just the average common number of vultures in landfill? I don't, I'm just looking to understand more and see how we can do better.
Hasn't this problem been resolved?
But you still don't have an HVAC that's working, like.
You gotta
Pair up on an HVAC.
yeah, that's something's got to be proven that kind of they destroyed HVAC.
Pictures of how they've torn things off their roof, shit all over their stuff. I mean, it's legitimate if you want to look at the details that have been shared with you.
There's nothing on the HVAC system and
Have you read
wait a minute, let me finish. Excuse me. On an HVAC system that a vulture can destroy
Houses.
other than the insulation on the lines maybe. And that's minimal. That's not going to destroy the working of a system.
And since we're talking legality, and I'm not a lawyer, so I'm just asking as a layperson, was this damage done on your property?
No, sir.
This
I'm
damage is done
speaking
on
for
Richmond.
neighbors, the
That's-
people,
it
if
was
you
done on
read
their
your
property.
emails, yes, sir, they're.
I'm aware of that, it's the college. Okay. So the college are the ones that suffer the loss.
They, along with their
And
neighbors,
so it's college that are the ones that need to come forward.
they have
And
written.
no, they haven't.
Exactly. From what I understand, the colleagues are satisfied that
I do understand legality, so we're now going to legal counsel.
That's right. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Are we good?
Appreciate follow through. I don't like
Well,
just saying we're
Soon
gonna
as
do
we
things.
get
I
that
like
opinion
action.
from Gore, and if the college have a beat, then it should be the college. Right, but that should
They
be.
have jobs.
I do too, and I'm here.
We all work.
Right, you volunteered for this position. Yes, sir. So that's why you have to be here and do the work.
from what I understand, the colleagues are satisfied with the budget problem being solved.
There's a way probably, but if there are damages.
To me, they're the ones that need to speak.
Yes.
They need to come,
They have spoken and
they
nobody
need to
addresses
come
the
before
facts.
this committee and voice their displeasure.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna ask for some conclusion on the legality of the issue.
Thank you.
We'll get back.
Was that a motion?
I second it.
Yeah. See further clarity as to liability of vulture depredation on private property.
You come mess up my stuff.
All right, I think that concludes that. See you much. Appreciate that.
And I do want to publicly thank Chad and the USDA for the quick response.
Yes.
From the time we were made aware of it to the time when we met with him, signed agreements, had him on site was less than a week. And that's with Memorial Day thrown in.
Right.
So I want to thank Chad. He has been fantastic, very responsive, answering questions, and like I said, was from the first conference call to the signed agreements to the on-site review to putting the traps in to meeting was phenomenal. So I appreciate that.
And if anything comes up in the future, feel free to reach out, we'll get on it and hopefully stop this before it
Thank
becomes a
you.
bigger
I'll take
problem.
it forward.
Brings us to the, Mayfield landfill update on the product.
Yep, so I thought, since we're already through half of 2022, it's hard to believe, but, just give a snapshot of where we're at so far this year, since we're halfway through it. January through June, host fees, totaled a little over 1.4 million. Exact number, 1,490,637.20. Year to date, tons through the end of June. So all this is through the end of June. A little over 480,000 tons. And that is almost flat, with where we were last year this time. It's 482,000 tons. We would call that flat or slightly more last year. So tons are trending the same. We are up to 32 employees now. We're still looking to hire additional. Like everybody here, the landscape of the hiring workforce and across the country is very challenging. Slim. We are at the 32 employees. We've got two more that we're looking to hire. I think and the hardest has been maintenance techs. It's really been the most challenging. We've had to go to the headhunters and reach out to diesel schools and as far as Tennessee and we actually just hired two. We also have operator position and a labor position. So anyway, I think still looking to hire some. We've had 2 DQ solid waste inspections this year, March 16th and June 8th. We received both of those written reports back. Submitted those, that there's no violations, all in compliance. Those are out there as well. And you'll note, the wetland came up, but the June last month's inspection, no violations of that or anything, nothing in the conveyance system. Gas collection system. So in June, we also expanded the gas collection system. They drilled 22 new gas wells to add to the hundreds that are already out there. And those are in cells 26 and 27. So around that backside, since we just filled those and put it back out. So they drilled those in June and we're in the process of literally hooking those up as we speak, running the laterals, expanding the force main, and then you put the vacuum on. But 22 new wells. We had a DEQ inspection of the new cell. Before you go into a new cell, the DEQ has to inspect it. That's 25C, 24A. We received that. They literally issue a CTO, just like instead of a certificate to occupy, it's a certificate to operate. And so they literally issue that, but you can't go to the cell until you get that after they inspect it. Received that on June 23rd. We submitted the an annual monitoring fee to the county. Of course, that went up 9.81% increase year over year on the index. And then some of this y'all know, we had the Tire Amnesty Day, April 23rd. We participated with the FFA kids, so that was awesome. Of course, we just concluded the Spring in the Green event in May with the art contest, and congratulations again to Riley, Cal, and Amber from Miss Terry's art class. They did a phenomenal job this go around, and they were the winning first, second, and third place winners of the contest, and they really did a good job on the artwork. And that's all I mean.
That's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
Are you also offering incentives to new employees?
Yes. Yeah, they're doing, and for people that refer also, there's incentive. But like the maintenance technicians, that was up to $5,000 sign-on bonus, the tool allowance. This year, Waste Management started offering, free college tuition to dependents of employees as well. So last year, they started offering free college tuition to employees. And then this year it's to dependents of employees that they'll, pay for college tuition, which is phenomenal. But and as much as all that, I mean, signing bonuses, tool allowances, it is hard. It's hard to.
Well, I have to tell you, Brad, and I didn't even interrupt. But since you're on that, I don't know, you think you'll put feelers out to the diesel school. I've heard so many truck shops and heavy equipment shops say they hire these boys and said they bring something in the shop that's dirty. They said, in the school, everything's clean. Hey, man, you got a log skidder in there and they don't know what to do. They don't know how to work on something that's dirty. You know, how to clean it themselves, you know, what a putty knife is for. Yeah, but, you know, it's just something simple, like changing the oil. They don't want to change the oil, they got in it there. So I know that's a problem in the construction side with equipment. A lot of the guys, once they say it, I don't want it, they might come, but they might leave. So I hope you have better luck.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You need to get across the old guy.
Next question, is these new gas wells that they drilled and it's going to be, any more output of engine code?
It won't be any more output only because when you plot your gas curve, you know, you've got cells that are already tapped. So they're decreasing as this is increasing. You know, you're eventually use the methanogenic bugs that are producing the methane. So you're not as much here, but then you're producing more in the newer cells. So it kind of.
And, I don't think we get, I know we had, before and Dustin, did, just from my own information, did y'all come to our?
We did.
Sure did. Yeah, that's good. Just kind of curious.
Yeah, I thought if I said it, I just forgot it.
Yeah, we did.
Great.
Well, I know it was so, so I know you don't fuss around.
We set, got all the accounts straight.
Great. Good. Explain that work out there.
Will that benefit the landfill? Like, will y'all get to use mulch recover? I'm just curious how will there be?
For bulk?
For the tire chipping, is that part of it or?
Oh,
it's just
oh,
the
no,
tire
no.
Taking, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, this was the whole, with the grandfather thing.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Right, is, the white man the any potential downturn in tonnage of any kind due to the economy? It's going, it ain't done going south yet. And I just wonder, you know, about, you know, all the big places like New York, is that going to affect their things? Or do you know, do they have even?
I mean, I don't know personally, but I mean, you know, they always say the waste business is recession resistant, but not recession proof. We obviously see downturns.
Oh,
You know, if recession hits harder and there's somebody's not buying as much and not producing as much waste, then that's going to trickle down to us. Even though, you know, we're always
It's going to
producing
It's
waste.
going to be
Yeah.
garbage.
There are actually some interesting studies I've seen in the past from an archaeological standpoint where recession periods have actually increased trash temporarily. People buy more sale stuff that they don't eat or don't use. That's going into the waste stream, so. Yeah, not proved, but sometimes it's actually a thought.
I was just curious.
Share, Brian, what the annual monitoring fee was this year?
It was 242,463.
So that's what waste management pays to the county to cover our landfill inspectors, is that right? Okay. Sure. Bits and pieces to go with it, sort of the offset. Where do I get copies of the inspections? Is that a DEQ for you, or is that something y'all can share?
DEQ's got them, we send them to the county.
That would be helpful to understand more. Did you share with everybody here more about the sludge issues we had? What? The sludge issues when I came to Taylor and told him how much it stunk at my house and so.
So I think that's one of that, y'all. Yes.
Oh, and yeah, and we,
That's the kind of thing I would like to see addressed in this meeting, because that's kind of important with the plan.
well, and, you know, I was talking to Patty before, and we recognize
There was something wrong.
and we cut them off.
Good.
That's just, we'll cut people off if they, you know, it's, I mean, we're not gonna wait till, have a meeting before we proactively cut somebody off. So.
Right. No, I appreciate that you would cut that off, but I feel it deserves a mention because, I mean, yes, I'm glad, I hope and pray all reports are always good, but like, that's a issue that needs recognition.
Well, you're gonna have, stuff that comes in that, hey, this is, you know, that's why there's a whole profiling portion to it, you know, that, I mean, has nothing to do with this meeting, but there's a whole behind the scenes thing that's going on. And if that waste stream, whatever it is, whether it's, just something bulky that's hard to handle, you know, like whether it's anything, plastic sheeting or sludge, but there's something that's misrepresented or, you know, odorous, when it comes in, I mean, we're gonna cut it off. And that's something that's regular. I mean, we cut people off all the time and reject them, so.
So they actually use the landfill, and if it's something you don't approve of, you tell them to stop bringing it.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand, I don't know, accepted everything, I didn't know.
You know, and even, you know, and they're paying us for disposal, but I don't care about that. I'm gonna shut them off.
Well, because DEQ will shut you down if you have a lot of stuff in there, you know, and that's.
And that's you have to have that program in place. I mean, that's.
Yeah, that is a special waste approval program. And certain waste streams have to go through very rigorous testing and progress, you know, before they are even allowed to come into the landfill.
But it gets through that process and gets there. And
It's
it's bad.
a contract can be broken.
Correct.
Okay.
We-
All right, that's enough.
We write into all of our contracts that if it's a compliance issue or not, or even not in accordance with our internal measures, we can cut you off. That's written into every contract.
There are many things that DEQ says that we can't take, but just because we can take it, doesn't mean we're going to take it.
Right.
It's allowed to go into the landfill, but as Brian said, we can not accept that one, that was fine.
So I mean,
Even and also talking about contracts, we don't typically talk about contracts. Those are contracts with our customers.
Sure.
That we're not going to.
disclose details, it's private business, I understand that, but there becomes a point where it's public business, you know, just in the realm of. And somebody's got in there before we said no, you know, I mean, that's just.
That's something that we would be.
The damage is done at that point, kind of what we said, be grateful.
That one especially.
All right, thank you, Brian. If, unless there's any other questions, we've got, move on to old business. All right, see the facilities host fee, and again, I was not here at the last meeting, to begin that, so this is somewhat new business for me, as I'm catching up from the past meeting minutes. So where are we on that? If you don't mind bringing us up to date on that wall.
And I was here. Thankfully, well, what it was, pressure was raised about the tipping fee that the county was receiving compared to then what other facilities in the state were getting or were paying to the county. And so I know, Patty has been working on that, getting figures together.
Right. There is one little typo that Walt caught. On the 6,000 to 7,000 ton per day for Amelia, should be 560 per ton instead of 550.
That's along with the agreement. Seems like for me, it's pretty much in line with all the other towns. And even a little more than some.
Just out of curiosity, and I don't, I'm gonna say some sound mean, but I'll ask anyway. Let's just say we randomly choose to raise it to $6 a ton. And you go, we don't want to pay $6. Assuming y'all can take your trash and take it somewhere else. I mean, so you know, you can kind of regulate how much trash actually shows up in Amelia, so you don't have to pay extravagant tipping fees.
So it's a bilateral agreement. So the host agreement, would, you know, it's not unilateral. So we would have to come to agreement on the host. Yeah, if we arbitrarily raised to $6 a ton, there'd be waste shedding to other sites.
Exactly. So I was kind of assuming that you could kind of move your waste where you wanted to.
Yeah, they even do that now. They send it to wherever they make the most money on.
Well, they are business.
Yeah.
The railroad tracks go a lot of.
Yeah.
How many, facilities in Virginia that y'all do have railroad access?
Just it's King George landfill and then Sussex. But King George is kind of unique because it only serves Annapolis Junction, the transfer station.
How many, big landfill that people were ever, any or not?
I know of two. Well, waste management ones.
Right. I don't know about any other companies.
Brunswick landfill, that's Republic. They have one nearby because they do or used to receive waste by rail, but it's not on site like theirs. Or it's nearby. I don't know. I don't
Really,
know.
that's not many. Right.
There are starting to be more and more. There are starting to be more and more across the country.
Well, sanitation costs, that's why.
Patty, the post fee update here, this is from 2002. Some of the modest data here is from that, minus the update for the King George landfill.
Actually, I contacted all of these, on the
So these are, okay,
So these are all
they're all
current.
current.
How much, they don't get much asbestos there.
It still trickles in.
Is it like from the remodeling, some type of a big industrial remodeling or just?
It's mostly like, you know, they're like downtown Richmond, they're taking all the old warehouses and turn them into loft apartments.
Yeah.
We do much from those type of renovations.
How much y'all make on a ton of asbestos?
It says, right.
I know that's how much we make.
Yeah,
How much y'all make?
It varies.
Those are the numbers. I want to see.
chocolate meringue pie.
You'll bring your pie next year.
Revisit that.
Just like it's fire, you can get messy too.
Coming back with that.
Is there any more ash? Come in anymore?
We've closed the Landfill.
I thought it looked like it had been closed.
I mean, road here and there, but and evaporated.
See, if we had that monthly report of the different categories of waste, we would know how
Yeah.
much asbestos.
Well, I was saying, it's not even on
If
here.
it just does that every day, it would be nice to know.
I mean, back when they were giving y'all, getting a lot of tonnage a day, when that was a big thing.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that was,
And then you turn, they could get rid of most of it.
that was coming in gondolas and road, but it was it's happening.
And I think this would fall under old business. I've brought it up before, but recently I visited Buckstone Quarry and Prince Edward and in Nottaway counties. And so I've heard firsthand how their equipment uses a different OSHA qualified backup beaver that's more air oriented, like a white noise that doesn't carry as far and disturb all of the members. So it was really nice to see that in action. And obviously, if it's good enough for Buckstone, I would think it would be good enough for us. I remember you mentioned before, Brian, that would be a corporate issue, but I feel like if that all of your trucks came from Volvo or whatever. But I feel like if an entity like Waste Management spoke to Volvo, it would not be that hard to get that to be factory because you said you did not want to do an aftermarket.
Let's hold on to that because that is off topic right now.
But with business, okay.
Sure.
I think-
Are there any motions or entertained thoughts as to recommendations that we would make in terms of adjustments to those fees?
I think it's fine. It's fine. That's also between the county and Waste Management. I would think decide we could, about all we could do is recommend for the county and, Waste Management coming together. But, I mean, compared to the other locations, for them, especially for the amount of tonnage we're getting in, I don't see any issue myself.
I tend to agree. I'm not a firm believer of biting the hand that feeds you. And we're very fortunate to have a stream of revenue in this county. And I would hate to see it decrease because we all would pay the price to shut out.
I guess my thoughts on the issue are, we seem to be benchmarked, pretty much in line with what the other landfills around the state are doing. The main difference is that we are one of the two rail linked landfills, so that is an advantage that we should protect as a resource here. At the same time, King George has, it appears as though they are making an adjustment. And since the county has seen a budget decrease in the past year, I think it's something that would be wise for us to advise the county to take a look at.
And then when you look at Gloucester and Hampton, what they're getting, they're really,
Yeah, I mean,
that's low.
yeah,
I would say.
those are somewhat different, but those are more municipal landfills, is that correct?
They're all municipal landfills. This is the only one we actually own. They're all municipal.
I don't know that those are particularly good ones to benchmark to us anyway.
Yeah, I know.
So,
But I'm saying, considering what we're getting, considering what they're getting.
sure, right.
That's a big difference. A big difference.
And it's hard to look at apples to apples, when you look at these, because it's not just fee structure, I mean, and just on top of it, like Amelia has 6 convenience centers that are paid for and all the waste, especially the staffing. Well, Charles City has 2, so there's different components to it as well.
Yeah, you have to look at the entire thing. We were,
And the fact that y'all own the property here, do you know how much y'all pay in property taxes each year?
No, I don't. Yeah, that's a good point, because a lot of other places do.
And how many landfills in Virginia accept asbestos?
Just us and King, 2, not King George, King Queen. Republic.
Is the estimated lifespan left on this one in comparison to others in Virginia? I mean,
I don't know in comparison, but other than that, we're at 70 years.
no.
And that can go up and down.
Yeah, no, it's changed. I mean,
Right now, it's
based on what you're saying.
70, yeah.
Allison, there's a good report that DEQ puts out every year called the SWIA report,
okay.
and it lists all of that information.
I think I found that out.
Okay, yeah.
But it's not as current. I mean, it's not like updated monthly or anything.
No, it's only done yearly.
Right, just to know that estimated lifespan.
Right, it'll give you an estimated lifespan, it'll tell you where the waste came from, what categories came in, all of that. So, yeah, it's very detailed. Yeah, very
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, if you don't mind stating that as a motion, fine.
That's the worst good. I don't have very good memory. All right, well, I'm gonna motion that we accept this report, I guess, that and our recommendation at this time to continue on and we're going with the OC.
So recommend no change.
No change.
No change. Okay. Second. All right, motion on the table, any discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none, go ahead and take a vote on that, all in favor of the motion as proposed by Mr. Harding? Signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion is adopted. In terms of new business, what do we have for new business? Anything from the floor? Yeah, Allison, I want to address the
The noise
backup.
making, if that's
Yeah.
a better term, yes, sir. I just didn't know. I mean, I just feel that that's not too much to ask of other corporations and make, I mean, you're a large corporation. It just seems like much.
So even back then, when you first raised that and I witnessed it as well at Luckstone, and I posed that question to corporate safety, and they are not gonna change right now. They have looked at those, so they were well aware of that white noise technology, but at this time, they're not gonna change. I will revisit that with them.
Again, that would be.
I will ask again. I'll revisit.
Right. You'll give me the contact information. I'll give it to Allison, I think coming from a neighbor directly to
I would be
them.
glad to.
Yeah,
If anybody-
With a letter from the committee in support.
And we're,
We can.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't be the only neighbor, I mean, I feel like all of the landfills too. I mean, as waste management as a practice, that would be a nice neighborhood thing. So I would appreciate anything we do here and beyond.
and we are regulated in our CUP by decibels.
What is the decibel difference between the two alarms?
There's a big one audibly. I mean, I know, but are you with your technician, sir? I mean, I don't know. I can.
No, but I know what. I worked on that for 3 years, and that's what we dealt with.
Sure.
Was
The
decibel
noise,
level,
yes.
and which ones were
I
damaging
think it-
to the inners and which one was not. So,
if
the
it's
reason I asked, do you know what the decibel
I can find
difference
out for you.
is?
Yes, sir.
Oh, good, I like to know.
I will try to test.
Decibels, 68 at the property.
68.
Anything under nine?
That's a list.
Considered harm to the ear.
But when I, years ago, before the sun comes up, it's a problem. You know, I'm just asking for good neighbors.
The only thing, I don't hear the beeps anymore.
They're annoying.
Yeah, you do, you can, where they're at, especially right now. The only thing I can hear sometimes, especially when they first get going in the morning, I guess it's the empties on the gravel.
The train.
When they're going from the land, bam. It doesn't bother me, because I make just as much noise. But, you know, that's the only noise I hear now. Which like Allison and the ones on the east side, they're more in tune to hear.
Yeah, you can ask her, she knows.
And right now, unfortunately, I can't determine what's landfill and what's not because we've got a new home being built right next door and that man is out there as soon as the sun comes up. So I really cannot determine which is which at this point. But I will say, you know, we had the leachate evaporator that had a noise complaint and you found a blanket for it and that's on order. So I will say when the complaints arise about the noise, trying the best you can to get it down. So
And I will revisit that.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Would a letter from the committee,
Sure.
that would help your case since you're going back a second time.
Y'all get that to me, I will present that.
And I'm like the president, I believe we submit a letter support, the new alarm. You can put the correct wording for the new alarm.
Technology.
All in favor of the motion as proposed to submit a letter of support in favor of exploring new technology for lower decibel backup alarms, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes.
Could you share more about the leachate processing? Because that's kind of like ubiquitous. As far as like, put your leachate in there and then what comes out, or what is the process when you left?
Yeah, what, I saw it on the old report, we recently installed a leachate concentrator, which basically a flare, separate flare that concentrates down leachate, gets sprayed into it. And there's a really good, it's a simple process with a lot of mechanical aspects to it. The process is really simple. And it's a Heartland unit, and I can't really do it justice describing the mechanical pieces, but if you go to Heartland, Heartland Tech, all one word, Heartland Tech. And then at the bottom, it says like technology, you click on that. And then it brings up a concentrator, or an LM concentrator, HT concentrator. And it actually goes through a video step by step on the process. But it's right there by the flare system. And we had to get, a whole separate DEQ permit for that. Just like the flare has to have air permit, that has to have air permit. But we still have to send leachate off site, but it just concentrates it down. So we can take, 5 loads and turn it into 1 load. So instead of 5 trucks going down the road, it's 1 truck, so going down the road. And we still have to go to the wastewater treatment plant and all that, but it's just concentrating it down. But I wouldn't do the technical part justice. Patty and Crystal have seen it, but
that's really cool.
it's a simple process, but it's very.
And you said the video,
Yeah. Exactly.
you said the video is exact, well, y'all have to.
Yeah, that's the model.
Yeah.
And,
Heartland.
DEQ came out last week and did the air process on that, right?
Well, look at Patty, Walt as well, in terms of putting this letter together, taking a step back, support, how is that process?
We'll put one together and I'll send it out to all of you guys and get your input on it and then once y'all approve it, we'll send it on to Brian and he can forward it on to whoever. He's,
So there was, in my understanding, there was a noise issue with the leachate concentrator initially, or
It's, some vibration with it, so we ordered acoustical blanket to wrap around the motor.
It has a hum, and
Yeah.
depending on
okay.
anybody's hearing, some people are affected by it and some aren't.
A resident.
Yes.
We used to get that with Jingo as well, so when we got an acoustical blanket around.
Did that direct on the problem?
Oh, of course, it's back ordered.
Oh, I'm going to ship out there. Oh, shoot, way down low.
$3,000 acoustical blanket somewhere out there.
I've been waiting on some sprockets for bulldozers since December.
And all they say, and I want to ship somewhere, we don't know where it is.
Somebody's on the house and living on a bus, that's what the here is.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
This might go back to updates, but what's the progress on the dirt mining or the graves that are being moved, things there in the pork shop, I guess,
There's,
wherever.
so there's nothing in the graves that were in the pork chop that were identified in 1992, before the landfill was there.
Mhm.
Those were reinterred, what, 2 years ago?
what is it? I think that's about right.
The borrow areas are not under the purview of the LAC. The LAC is, you know, myself, the LAC strictly deals with the landfill permit. But the LAC is addressed in the host agreement, and the borrow areas are separate permits.
Right.
Has
And
nothing to
they
do
were
with-
listed on this history, I don't think. Were they listed on this history?
Because they're not included.
Yeah, it's not part of the landfill.
Oh, okay. But they're, even if they aren't in the purview of the agreement, we can't just be curious how many graves are there? New more recently.
Well, I don't mind telling you that we are the ones that proactively discovered those
Reported, yeah.
and spend a lot of money with ground penetrating radar to find those. And we are currently going through the archaeological process.
Steps.
And that is something that we are doing.
Sure, well, that's, I want you to share, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
Because that's-
that-
And those are, all of that information specifically concerning grades, all that is not usually public information. It's protected sensitive archaeological information.
Gotcha. Yeah, just when you get to see the heaps of dirt from it, you know, you just kind of wonder, that's all.
All right, any other new business?
I probably won't be in October meeting. I'll be in Coleman.
Congratulations on your reappointment in Cornwall. Thanks.
It's got to talk about what we're gonna do. It's been on this since 97.
Yeah. All right, hearing no other new business, do I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So be it.
All right, motion on the table, all in favor? Start by saying aye. Thanks everybody for coming. Thank you all.